Hi amazing educators, my name is Angelina Ikeako and I am your facilitator for today. My focus would be on creating a safe and enabling classroom post-COVID. I would like to specially thank ODETOLA who invited me to deliver this training and who is just an amazing person. Today's training is going to be interactive as we would be learning from each other, and by the end of this training I am sure that both you and I would have grown intellectually. So let's get started. Learning aims. 1. Understanding why we need to create an emotionally safe classroom and how to do so. 2. Exploring how to create an intellectually safe classroom. 3. Strategies on how to check if you are a safe teacher or if you are a safe school leader. We would start with an activity. I would like your responses. The reason I use that activity is because in all of us are different kinds of faces and our environment determines which face we display. So today we want to explore how your school can help her children display the excited, motivated and enthusiastic face. Let's take a look back. COVID was an unprecedented crisis that globally grounded nations to a standstill. The impact was felt by everyone. My question is, how do you think COVID impacted on your students? Absolutely. You are all absolutely correct, and to add a few more. Academic gaps, emotional trauma, domestic abuse due to financial stress, nutritional gaps, mental health crisis, isolation. The impact of this is that you currently have students whose brain has been under stress during the COVID pandemic. When the brain is stressed, it begins to shut down, leaving the parts of your brain that help store memories and perform high-thinking tasks with less energy. This is why when people are under stress they become forgetful. In children, toxic stress can have harmful effects on learning, behavior and their health. If this stress is allowed to continue over a prolonged period, it impacts on the child's ability to learn. It means that the child's stress response systems switch and remain on high alert, which is damaging. Because this causes developmental delays, learning problems and behavioral problems in children. Stress has the ability to scramble the brain. So the children coming back to you are children who have been stressed, lonely children, broken children, hungry children, academically stagnated children. We have a responsibility to now create an enabling and nurturing environment to cushion the effects of this stress and return the brain back to the normal and active learning mode. The impact of COVID has been huge. The reality is that the children that left you pre-COVID are not the same children that would be returning to you post-COVID. Which is why we must intentionally create a safe classroom, which in turn leads to a safe school. The Ministry of Education in different states through the Quality Assurance Team has designed trainings and set out what schools need to do to create physically safe spaces. But I would be examining safety from the context of the dimensions of emotional and intellectual safety. These are the intangible dimensions that impact greatly on the learning engagement of our children. What is an emotionally safe school? First, we need to understand that when the brain is stressed, it releases cortisol. This is a toxic release that blocks learning and deadens the brain cells. The type of children that are returning to you have experienced high stress levels because they have been locked up at home in the past months. Many have heard the parents quarrel because of money. Some have gone without the nice things they used to have because of the financial state of the parents. For some others, the parents could not even afford 3 meals a day. This has given rise to these 3 categories of children in your classroom post-COVID. Depressed children, demotivated children, distracted children. The depressed children are those who have experienced trauma while at home. They have witnessed both verbal and physical abuse. You can imagine a child in your school whose mother owns a boutique. In COVID, how many people were buying clothes and perfumes? So this mum, who was previously always having cash, is now very frustrated because her shop has been locked up in the past 6 months. The exchange rate is bad and imports have not been allowed into the country. You can imagine the frustration of this mother, and you can imagine how she could sometimes take it out on the child. So we have children who have lived in fear, panic and anxiety in these last months because of the parents' outbursts. The demotivated children are the academically stagnated children. Children who currently have academic gaps. They are those that are currently so far behind. Because for some of them they didn't have the resources to engage in online learning. For others the parents didn't encourage them to engage with online learning. For others the parents could not afford the data for the devices to access any kind on learning. Therefore these child missed out on learning. For other children they just couldn't learn as much at home. They couldn't concentrate. They lost the motivation to study. Therefore now as they return to your classroom they are confused as to how to begin and are anxious but are desperately trying to cover it up. The distracted children are those who have really missed human contact. One child was found crying at home. Everyone was so worried thinking the child was ill or had hurt herself. When they asked, she said, "I really miss my friend's pleading face." Therefore, for these children all they really want to do is connect with their friends. They really want to play. They are in school not really because they would love to learn but because they want to connect. So school represents the freedom and playtime that they have been denied in these past months. These are the three categories of students that the teacher has to deal with in the class. This is why it is imperative that the teacher creates an emotionally safe and enabling classroom, is because if this is not in place the categories of children I have mentioned become a ticking time bomb which would soon explode. So tell me, how can a teacher deal with these categories of students in the class? The only way to support these students is to create a safe classroom emotionally and intellectually. An emotionally safe classroom is a classroom that places priority on the emotional well-being of the child. Because only a child that is settled emotionally can internalize learning. An emotionally safe classroom is a classroom where the teacher functions with emotional intelligence. It is a classroom where the teacher demonstrates empathy, which means understanding the different needs of the children. It is a classroom where stress levels are at the barest minimum. So how can the teacher do this? 1. By creating a safe emotional space. This means letting children understand some of the emotions that they may be experiencing. Helping them become aware of their emotions. 2. By fostering teacher-student connections, which is to demonstrate care for the student. To provide a listening ear. To create opportunities for students to share how they have handled some big emotions like worry, embarrassment and confusion. This way students learn that it is possible to self-regulate. 3. Setting the tone. Set the tone first thing in the morning. So how can the teacher do this? 1. By creating a safe emotional space. This means letting children understand some of the emotions that they may be experiencing. Helping them become aware of their emotions. 2. By fostering teacher-student connections, which is to demonstrate care for the student. To provide a listening ear. To create opportunities for students to share how they have handled some big emotions like worry, embarrassment and confusion. This way students learn that it is possible to self-regulate. 3. Setting the tone. Set the tone first thing in the morning. In setting the tone you can let children know some emotions they can experience and how to deal with it. When these are in place, then the classroom environment is not a high-stress environment. Children are then confident to settle down and absorb what they are taught. Next we move into intellectually safe classroom. Some homes and classrooms are not intellectually safe. What do I mean? It means that some classrooms and homes pressure children intellectually by constantly comparing them with the peers who may be brighter, smarter and more intelligent. Therefore the child is constantly in a state of tension, desperately trying to live up to the expectation of parents and teachers. This is why we have a country where students would do everything possible even if it means cheating to pass an exam. This is because for them the end justifies the means. We must show our children that the means justifies the end. That the process is more important than the end product. An intellectually safe classroom is a classroom that is safe for a child to grow intellectually. We must understand that your curriculum post-COVID should be a recovery curriculum tagged "No Child Left Behind," which means progress is valued over end product. which celebrates and acknowledges the different intellectual capacities of children. Therefore, fail is defined first attempt in learning. So children need to be given high doses of encouragement and reinforcement that then fosters in them a self-belief to excel. How can this be done? 1. Addressing learners' needs. 2. Designing engaging instruction, relevant and connected activities that make the children see that learning is not just theoretical, it is real. It is useful in everyday life. Which makes the children mini researchers. We must use project model and problem-solving approach in our teaching. 3. Making learning fun. Teachers must use a multisensory approach that makes learning appeal to the different senses of the child, so that learning is moved from the short-term memory to long-term memory. 4. Growth mindset principles, which means effort and not result is rewarded. This means the child is trained to know that in solving a problem they don't ask, "Can I solve this problem?" Rather they say, "How can I solve this problem?" The first question is a closed question, which means the only option is a yes or no. The second question is an open question that looks for all alternatives. It is an empowering question. 5. Celebrating success. Teachers must think of creative ways to celebrate children's success in the class. Teachers must look for creative ways to shout about the children's achievement, because anything that is rewarded multiplies. Are you a safe teacher? To have a safe classroom, you must be a safe teacher. You can't create what you don't have. This means, are you emotionally ready for your classroom? Checklist. Do you know your limits? Do you know your stressor? Do you know your triggers? Do you know your tranquilizers? Do you know when to stop and ask for help? Self-awareness is the only way to thrive post-COVID, as some don't realize that this period has really impacted on them mentally and emotionally. As teachers, we must do 3 things. Self-awareness. Self-regulation, realizing how we can regulate our own behavior and not take our frustrations out on our students. Self-reflection, using this as practice to constantly examine and review our day and learn something through reflecting on our behavior. As a school leader, the checklist is the same. Checklist. Do you know your limits? Do you know your stressor? Do you know your triggers? Do you know your tranquilizers? Do you know when to stop and ask for help? So I would like school leaders to pause. What do you think you can do to support the emotional well-being of your teachers? As a teacher, tell me a practical thing you can do to improve your emotional well-being. Because you have a responsibility to keep your emotional wellness in top shape. A safe school is a combination of safe classrooms. A safe classroom is only possible if you have emotionally stable staff. Therefore, as a school leader, you have to lead this process of helping to address the emotional well-being of your staff, and there are 3 strategies you can use. Ensure all staff re-energized, keep motivated. What can you do to ensure that you boost the energy levels of your staff? How can you keep them refreshed? Reconnect. You need to ensure that all staff reconnect with your vision, mission and values. You must get back in line with our purpose as a school and what drives you. Reinvent. This means that you must retrain. You must ensure that staff realize the importance of capacity building. You must lead the way by modeling a love for learning and innovation. So what provisions would you make to upgrade your staff? Because the COVID pandemic has seen us fast forward 10 years into the future. The education landscape has changed, and if we must thrive, then we must upgrade. Please remember that children don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So make your school a safe school by caring. Any questions, please drop them below the comment button. Thank you for your time.